Joe Biden emerged from the basement yesterday, 89 days after not taking questions from the press. He subjected himself to it. Fox News political reporter asked him a bit of an uncomfortable question. Let's take a listen.
Last question, real quick. Some have speculated,
You're a
sir,
lying dog.
that you are subject to some degree of cognitive decline. I'm 65. I don't have word recollection that I used to have. I forget my train of thought from time to time. You got 12 years on me, sir. Have you been tested for some degree of cognitive decline?
I've been tested and I'm constantly tested. Look, all I got to do is watch me, and I can hardly wait to compare my cognitive capability to the cognitive capability of the man I'm running against. Thank you so much.
So there you go. Got asked about his cognitive ability. He obviously had a canned answer there. Apparently, one of the observations, I think Dave Weigel of the Washington Post saw this, was that you can compare that, that gritted through the teeth answer to he was challenged on his IQ in 1987. He's like, I've got higher IQ points than you do. So seems to have learned a little bit of a lesson there. But it's interesting. It's clearly getting to him. And I think that the cognitive, this is something the Trump campaign has gone all in on. Look, I don't think it's working. It's obviously not working if you look at the polls and all of that. But if you look at the number one concern people have about Biden, it's his age. That's if even people who support him are like, I just wish he wasn't so old. That's one of the things that you hear over and over and over again. So, Ryan, he's not necessarily going to suffer any political consequences for it, but the reporter, he's going to get questions like this all throughout the campaign. I don't see him handling it as well as he did there. He had 89 days to prepare. Whenever we're back in the scrums, we covered so many different moments here where if he gets challenged even a little bit, he just flies off the handle. He really can't take it.
Right. Though we might not wind up back in the scrums.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Coronavirus cases are ticking up, and he has every medical reason to say that, look, I'm doing the responsible thing. I'm social distancing. I'm going to be quarantining in my house. And it could backfire on him. It probably helped Biden in the last debate against Bernie Sanders.
No question.
That he delivered a cogent performance. Mm-hmm. And just stringing sentences together and paragraphs together was enough to have people say, wow, that guy's got it together.
Right.
And it sets the bar so low that all you have to do is just not trip over it on the floor. So if he can go into presidential debates and do whatever regimen he did to get through that debate with Sanders and do the same with Trump, then he's got it made in a lot of ways. Now, the counter argument would be Hillary Clinton in 2016, mm-hmm. where Republicans and the conservative media kind of infrastructure spent millions of dollars pushing the idea that she had fallen on her head, had a stroke, was sick, was like on death's door. That got nowhere, but what it did is it made the ground fertile for what happened on September 11th, that event where she fainted.
Right.
And she had walking pneumonia, and so then that was days of coverage, and it was all filtered through this campaign of saying that she was ill. So if some problem did strike him, then the ground is kind of
that's smart. I think you're right. I think you're right to say that. But broadly, I generally think this is what it is. It's preparation versus off the cuff. Clearly rehearsed answers. Whereas during the primary, 88 days on the road, and you have to deal with the reporters, 15 of them in your face, and you can't control the questions. Apparently, he had a list of reporters there who he was calling on. Has to call on Fox to appear balanced. And look, I should give him credit for that. I want him to do more press conferences. I think everybody does. But the real issue is that it's about preparation. And I just don't think you can be president that way. Obama and all these other people, they had to take questions from the press every single day. It's one of the worst parts about being president is that no matter where you go, the press is going to shout at you and be in your face. And I think that's a good thing. I want that to happen. I want them to be confronted constantly. But with Biden, the fact that he's so terrible in off-the-cuff moments, that's where we had that whole montage yesterday of all of his just dramatic flukes before Obama told him to keep it crisp, stop doing the interviews, don't do any press conferences unless it's like this. Then this seems to be what's happening. And you can see just how comfortable him and his campaign are in the basement. I mean, his wife was on The View yesterday, offering up her explanation. They were like, why are you still in the basement? She gave a pretty revealing answer. Let's take a listen.
Well, we're listening, Joy, we're listening to the doctors and the scientists and what they're saying to us. And they're saying, don't go out there. And so we're listening to them. And and when we do go out, when Joe was just in Reading this past week, he socially distanced. He wears a mask. We're keeping safe. We can't wait to get out there again. I mean, there's nothing better than meeting with Americans and listening to their stories. But right now, the doctors say it's not safe to get out there. And so we're doing what you're doing. We're talking to thousands of people over Zooms.
So, over Zooms, by the way, I thought, always fun to see a boomer joke. But really what I think it is as long as that medical guidance exists, like you said, they're going to have the perfect idea. They'll be like, no, we can't do it. Do we have to stay in here? I mean, of course, he could run a dramatically different campaign. One of the funniest things that we saw was, remember Liz Smith and David Axelrod or David Plouffe, were writing these big New York Times op-eds in the same week, being like, he needs to get out of the basement. He needs to do something. But it's working out just fine. And as long as they have the cover of medical, the medical advice to say that elderly citizens should stay in their house, I think that it's going to be a highly controlled campaign. He even said we're not going to have any rallies. And that's the best part. His rallies were a disaster during the primary. Yeah. He consistently had the lowest attendance at any rally. So now he's fine. Doesn't even have to show off the fact that he can't draw a crowd. It's one of the most manufactured campaigns I've ever. This man might be one of the most lucky men in history to ascend to the presidency. Truly.
It is an utterly reasonable medical and public health rationale.
Right.
It is also an extraordinary gift to the campaign.
Because
even before the pandemic and during the primary, Biden was running a very low-key campaign. It was remarkable how many forums he didn't show up for, how few events he did, how little, we already know how little staff
and organizing. Didn't work hard at all. Just didn't work hard. I mean, what was that Iowa dinner or something, where they have cheering sections? They covered it with tarp. He had nobody show up. Buttigieg had people there.
Yeah, and it showed.
Yeah.
He got beaten badly in Iowa, terribly. Crushed in New Hampshire, lost in Nevada, this huge union state where he's supposed to do. And then, as we all know, Clyburn endorses him for South Carolina. He wins. So he didn't have the excuse then of the pandemic keeping him off the campaign trail. At that point, it was strategic, that there was no benefit to him going out and interacting with the voters, and there were only costs to it because he poked people in the chest, whether it was reporters or voters. I remember some guy told him he was going to vote for Tom Steyer, and he got into this huge fight with the guy. All the guy wanted to say is, "I'd really like you to make climate a bigger part of it." And so every time he'd go out, there'd be some weird interaction like that. And so now they don't have to go out, and they're smart not to.
Yeah, they really are. Well, it's just such a fascinating dynamic. If he emerges again, we'll keep you guys updated as promised, and we'll have more Rising for you after this.